Lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've got a good show for you today, but off the top, we've got a couple announcements we want to do. But before we do that, you can always find us at latenightLove.us, and you can always send us, emails at love@latenightLove.us. And we always take your questions and comments, and we listen to you. So if you can send us and comment, we do appreciate it. And off the top, first, we want to say that for the month of July, we're going to go back to those Saturday night 1 hour things, and those Saturday nights may actually be late. Saturday, it may actually be late night love because
they just might, because the state fair is coming up, and my honey does a lot of political work, and I'm a state fair widow.
Yeah, so for the second half of July, I am really busy. So essentially for the next month, I'm really busy. And so we're going to go to, for now, to this, back to the Saturdays, 1 hour shows on Saturdays. And then after that, in August, we'll sit down with the whole new team and kind of plot out our, strategy going forward with that. So that's the plan for that. And today is also an exciting day.
Yes.
It is. It's a momentous day for my dear Lovey. So why don't you go ahead and...
I have 33 years without a drink, without alcohol. I have now been living without a drink, without drinking longer than I was drinking. So it feels like another life. It's a little surreal, but I have to firmly keep in mind I still have the allergy.
Yeah, it's a lifelong thing. It's not something you can say, it's over.
No, a couple times a year my head tells me, it's been a long time. You could have a glass of wine. You'd be all right.
That's when you gotta smack your own brain around, right? What are you talking about?
My brain is out to kill me.
That'll be fine. And in a sense, you can see why it would think that, right? You can see why.
Sure.
Yeah, but you know that
33 years is a long time.
Yeah, you're a much different person now. It's fine. No.
I'm a different person because I don't drink.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm a different person. But it's just
I was not a fun drunk. I was not a happy drunk. I was a mean drunk.
Well, if you're drinking to hide the scars of your life, those are what's going to still come up. You can't hide from
I had a lot of anger.
And you can't hide from that kind of thing. It's going to come out one way or another. And so
took a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work.
But 30 years later, you're still here and you're still standing, and you've achieved a success.
And who wants to do a personal inventory of their life?
Well, nobody does, but we all should.
A life unexamined is not worth living. I believe that was Aristotle.
Yeah, maybe. One of those ancient thought provokers, leaders, philosophers,
yes,
whatever you want to call them. But it's there's reasons sayings like that stick around for so long, because there's truth to them. Otherwise, we would have forgotten it. So there's some reason we're still repeating these things thousands of years later, right? It's because there's values. There's some realness to it. Since it's not a joke, we don't have jokes. No one knows ancient Roman jokes, but yet we know ancient Roman philosophy. So there's reasons for that. But speaking of philosophy and kind of dealing with issues, our first subject was oddly enough in the USA Today. And the link I have doesn't actually show the full article, and I couldn't find it again on Facebook, which is where I read the whole thing. But it actually brings up a interesting topic. So let me turn this on real quick. And is she wrong? This young woman was asking, is she wrong for choosing her boyfriend over her toxic family, and more specifically, her toxic mother? My point is you're never wrong choosing a family that's supportive and loving over a family that's toxic, regardless of the blood ties. That's just the smart thing to do.
Well, you're young. You leave your family. You build your own family.
Yes, but there's a difference between a family that helps you. Like her boyfriend's family helped him buy a house, helped him getting on his feet, and specifically her mother is, while her ex-stepfather now, I suppose, was very helpful to her, helped her buy a car and kind of get on her feet. Her mother has been a toxic drag, and anytime someone was trying to help her, she would try to take advantage of it. Right? So, they raised her rent by like $150 a month, and so she was complaining about not being able to afford it. So this girl's boyfriend was talking about, well, maybe we should let her move in here, so she can. And she only pay $500 a month in rent instead of whatever it was, but she didn't even want to pay that. And so it became all, this woman's toxic. And if you have a toxic family, whether it's your mother, your father, your brother, sister, or whatever, you're always better off choosing a family that is loving and supportive and not toxic, regardless of whether it's blood related or not. Now, how much do you need to disassociate with the toxic members of your family is a personal choice. Right?
Yes.
But quite frankly, is you're not choosing your boyfriend over your mother. You're choosing, having a warm, loving, supportive environment over one that's not.
It's a pretty easy choice. But apparently she's feeling some sort of guilt.
Well, of course you would. It's your mother. You're going to feel noticing that your mother is toxic and then trying to, say that I'm going to have to cut my mother out a little bit out of my life. And it's going to feel like you're choosing your boyfriend over that, but it's really not. What you're doing is you're saying your mother is too toxic to be deeply involved in your life. And it's not, you're not choosing your boyfriend over your mother. You're choosing a supportive life over a non-supportive life.
It could be a circle of friends. It could be your school environment.
And at this stage, it doesn't even matter about your boyfriend. If put your boyfriend out of it. If you were all settled on yourself, and this was you and living in your own apartment or your own house, and you were facing the same decisions, you'd be facing the same problems.
Yes.
And so it's not about your boyfriend. It just appears that way. It's about your mother and how much of a role she has in your life. And quite frankly, you're perfectly justified in making that choice. If somebody's toxic, you don't owe anybody anything. But when you feel like you owe somebody something, it's because they were generous to you for no reason, like your stepfather, who was more supportive for her than her mother was. That's the family you should keep. Not the one that's toxic. You say blood is thicker than water. Maybe. But, toxic behavior is a blood thinner. It just is. And eventually you're going to thin that blood.
Well, it becomes painful being around them.
Yeah. So you're going to feel guilty, and there's no way around that. But you already know it's the right thing to do. So otherwise you wouldn't have written a letter to the USA Today asking about it. You know the right thing to do. Okay. So next we've got on our list today, which is kind of related because, this young woman is probably going to need some therapy to deal with her toxic mother. That's going to manifest itself in strange ways in a relationship down the road. And so, having a discussion with a therapist is a difficult thing. Making a decision to talk to one is hard enough for most people. And then actually talking to her, and we've talked before, we should probably do it again, have a conversation about what to expect in a therapy session and how to approach it and that kind of thing. We should probably do that again. But there is an article here from the Mighty about 5 therapy tips for people who are uncomfortable with the idea of talking to a stranger, which is essentially a therapist is at the start of it is a stranger. And you're supposed to, spill your most innermost guts to these people, and
there's no quid pro quo.
Yeah, and well, there's not supposed to be. That's actually the point. But it feels an unnatural environment, and in a sense, it is.
Yes, that's what I mean. There's no quid pro quo like in normal relationships, so it feels a little off. Yeah,
and it feels awkward, but it's supposed to be that one-way relationship. It's supposed to be about you.
It's about you.
Yeah, so
you're paying for their time.
Yeah, you are literally buying a service, and so it's about you. All right. Now, even though a good therapist does kind of balance that. Okay, but they do have some suggestions, 5 quick suggestions. Write it all down is one of their suggestions.
I used to write bullet points about things I wanted to cover.
That's what was their next. That's actually went to number 2. So, I mean, and none of these, again, these type of suggestions are you pick and choose which ones work for you, right? So, and especially the first one, right? You write it down that you want to share. And so if you already know, not only have you already gotten out of your head, so you maybe understand it a little better, but you can actually give it to your therapist. And so they can have some relation.
In an understandable way.
And where you're coming from. So, it could kind of, it can help set the tone. I'm not a writer, so I wouldn't do it that way. But if you're someone who likes to write, maybe a good thing to do. And I think some therapists actually may ask you to do that as well as part of the exercise.
To do homework, yeah.
Yeah.
Writing.
Yeah, I never did homework writing, even though she wanted me to. I never did it. I did the work in my head. I didn't need to write it down. Okay, then there's the bullet points, as Lubby talked about, using bullet points. So what you wanted to cover, the things that are most important, or what's on your mind that week, just so you don't forget, because I do a lot of that sometimes.
Or something I keep forgetting about, a question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, something. I'll do that.
Sometimes they're elusive. Sometimes it's a kind of a big thing, but my avoider has been in full effect.
Yeah, the subconscious mind is a strange thing. Oh, I got to talk about that to my therapist when I see her in 2 weeks. All right. But of course, in 2 weeks, you've completely forgotten that you wanted to talk about that. And so writing it down, putting it on a list it's not necessarily bad, because I do that all the freaking time. And you just kind of hope that we cover things over the course of time. But especially if you're new, if you're not done the therapy thing before, these kind of things can help you get into practice of the thought. Find someone you're comfortable with, and that's a hard part.
Yes, if you don't like who you're seeing, if you don't feel comfortable after a couple sessions, it's perfectly okay to try and find someone else.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't someone who's giving you. A lot of people take more care with who cuts their hair than who they have a therapy session with. right? You'll ask for all kinds of recommendations and, oh, I don't like that person's how the person cuts hair, so you'll go use somebody else. But won't shop around for their therapist.
They won't feel hurt.
No, well, because even if they do, it's not about them. We just discussed this in the first top. It's about you. You know, does Walmart get hurt when you go and shop at Target? No, no one cares. And even if they did, so what? It's about you. Right? That's the point. You have to. The first thing about therapy is learning to prioritize you, and that's a hard part. That's a hard thing to do. Make yourself comfortable.
He talked about clothes. He talked about rearranging the pillows on the couch in the counseling session.
Yeah, it's being in your best headspace is a good suggestion. And then whether it is, if you're a sweats and a t-shirt type of person, wear sweats and a t-shirt. If you're a suit and tie type of person, wear suit and tie. It's just be comfortable, be who you are. Because it's something, you don't have to think about it. It's not something you need to worry about. So just trust as you. Because again, it's about you. You're the one paying to be there. Now, it's probably not best to show up in your pajamas, but if that's all you could get on to get out the house and get to your therapy session, then show up in freaking pajamas. I don't care. You'd like to progress past that at some point, I would think, but
I've been to many a counseling session in sweats because that's all I could manage. I just changed my pants out of pajama pants into sweats and just put on a shirt.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's be your authentic, real self. If the therapy session is the one place you get to be your authentic, real self without judgment.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, So, and just give it a go. The last one was, once you start talking, once you start going, it builds its own momentum. Especially if you have found someone that you're comfortable with, that you can talk to. It builds its own momentum. Just like in anything else that takes practice. You didn't learn to write in one day. You didn't learn to write in an hour. It took time. And effective therapy sessions are the same. It takes time. You can't just hop in and expect to be good at it from your side, without working at it. And it's a strange kind of work because it's a work people don't see. It happens in here. It happens in your head. But it doesn't mean it's not work. So that's what I want to make sure people understand, is that it's about work. Now, we're talking about work, and marriages are about work. And so as I was preparing for today's show, I had no clear thought what tonight's show was going to be. Bouncing around, and this one just kind of caught my attention. What they don't tell you about married life, and they asked them, "What is it you appreciate about your wives?" And they were talking about. It's hard for me to explain. Here, did you catch this? Let me bring it up on the screen. So,
yes, he was talking about four people sitting at the table, 2 husbands, 2 students. One of the students is male, the other one is me.
And so we were surprised that they were asking about marriage, and even more fascinated to learn about marriage from a male perspective. And so I remember the lady who wrote this it's a lady, Natalia. Okay, so it's a woman who's listening to men discuss marriage from a male perspective. So what are some of the things you appreciate about your wives? Her advice, was one of the husband answered. He's learned to ask advice about potential clients, about a client on paper, but, women have different perspectives on things. And so the client was a cook, and, you trust the read on people. So it's advice. When I said she makes a house a home, men are practical creatures, right? For the most part, if men had to make a house, you'd have a couch, a TV, a couple chairs.
What about plants, candles, and centerpieces?
What? Houses would be very functional. They just would, for most men. They would just be very functional. And so, and she was surprised to see all three men nodding in agreement. Even the married student. When she says she didn't realize how it was important for how important it was for men to have their own safe space, and women can help create that safe space. Sure, we can create a cave. That's why we call it a man cave. It's just a freaking cave. We don't care about the aesthetics, really, unless you're one of those football nuts and you go all out. But that's we just want our space. And in a sense, that's, the home is a bigger space. So what's this one? Before marriage, you can meet up with your girlfriend, tucking away any personal problems, and deal with them later. Once you're married, you quickly learn that you can't hide your worries and fears away because you now live with each other. Right? Well, that's true, because you've now melded your lives together. So your problems are now our problems.
Yes, they are.
There's no my problems and your problems. There's our problems.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
And there may be problems that one person deals with more than the other, but the other person has to support them in the process, at the very least.
At the very least, yeah.
And so it's just interesting. At the early stages of marriage, whenever my wife complained about a problem, I would attempt to solve the problem and whatnot.
Oh, God.
This led to the formula system where we ask each other, do you want advice or do you want a hug? And this is, what do you need from me right now, right? That's what I do.
That's what you do.
Which one do you...
When you don't know, you take a stab at it, and then I'm like, no, that's not it. Okay, well, then what do you need?
Well, because sometimes it's, you just go with some standards. You can throw a standard thing. Oh, that one doesn't work. All right, what do you need? I'm just going to sit here flailing. So what is it? Do you need me to hang out? Do you need me to leave you alone? What you want? What you got? What's up for today? But you learn how to do that. Because men like to fix things. And in a sense, that's part of what makes men attractive to women, is their ability to fix things. And so, the problem is you can't fix everything.
That's men's love language.
Yeah, but there's sometimes you can't fix things. There's nothing to be fixed. They have to fix it. They're just working through their emotions. And men have a more difficult time understanding that women are just working through their emotions, because women and men work through their emotions differently. It's not that men don't work through their emotions. We just work through our emotions differently. It manifests differently. And so we have to learn that. Men have to learn that. And frankly, so do women. But that's, it
takes time.
It does. Oh, man, miscommunication. After lunch, we wanted to take our son for a walk. My wife told me to wait for her outside. Outside the room. Outside. So she meant outside the room, and he thought he went literally meant outside the thing, which of course is funny. Of course, it's even funnier when you they're on a third floor apartment, and so they just keep missing each other as they keep looking for each other and waiting for each other. But those are the kinds of things, it's odd. It's so easy. You think you're being clear, but you're not necessarily clear. There's a nice picture. But it is. What are the things? We've been together 12 years now, essentially.
On the 8th.
So it's, what have you learned about, we're essentially married. So what have you learned about marriage in the last decade that you didn't know before? Because remember,
well, this is my longest term relationship.
Because we ain't spring chickens. So we've been through this before. So is there anything you've learned in the last decade that you wouldn't have learned before?
I have learned, you have taught me more about kindness, how to be kind, and how to be kind in every given situation. I'm not always the kindest person, and you've taught me that.
Well, I'm not sure, but I guess marriage teaches you to be more kind if you do it properly.
And this was my first experience with stepchildren. And you gotta let them decide the relationship, how it's gonna be.
Yeah.
It's not up to you.
No, there's so much in your life as adults and parents where, the real control, you're in control, but in the step-parent relationship, you're not.
Yep.
Whatever control you have is because they allow you to have it.
Yes.
And so, if you approach it like that, it actually makes it a lot easier.
It really does.
It really does. It's because it's kind of everybody's role is, I don't want to say the role is clear because it's not true, but as your roles evolve, it becomes easier and clearer. But it does make it easier if you have that mindset that they're in control of the relationship. And it's hard because there's times where those lines aren't exactly clear, and you have to make good choices as an adult. And you had to.
What do you mean?
With Michael.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That was awful.
But everybody survived it. Everybody came through. Yeah.
I get hugs from Michael when we see each other now.
Yeah, see? It was all understandable on everybody's side. There was nothing, it was, Michael was worried, and, and he is my son. So, so his response was not unexpected from my perspective. But, everybody handled it exactly. Oddly enough, everybody did it, kind of played out the way it should have played out, oddly enough. As awful as it may be, it's kind of how stuff has to play out in that situation. And everybody's confused. I was in the hospital. Michael was upset, wanted to drive somewhere, and you told him he can't drive because he's not allowed to drive. He was too young.
He had a learner's permit. He didn't have his license, and I had to take the car keys. He was so upset. I said, okay, I'll tell you what. If your grandmother says you can drive, I'll give you the car keys. So he actually texted his grandmother, and she said, no, it's illegal. You're not licensed. He was very pissed.
Yeah. But it's also understandable.
But he forgave me.
Well, yeah, because it was understandable. As soon as he had the chance to actually kind of get past the emotions of it, it all makes sense.
He was only, 17? He had a lot of emotions.
Yeah, who doesn't have a lot of emotions at 17? I feel sorry for 17-year-olds. I really do. It's bad for them. All right, so we got one last one. So let me see if we can get to this last one real quick.
Oh, yeah.
When your internal monologue hates you. So I got that.
This is the voice inside that says you're not. You're a fraud at work. You're the people in your life don't really know who you are, and they wouldn't love you if they did. And you're gonna die alone.
Yeah, well, it's that internal voice that knows exactly how to hurt you because it's you. It knows what your biggest fears are, so it plays on them. And if your biggest fear is being alone, then that's what it's going to play on. Whatever your biggest fear is, if it's fear of rejection, then it's going to be fear. It's going to be fear of rejection. If you have fear of being exposed as incompetent, then it's going to, so whatever your internal fear is, whatever your biggest fear is, that internal monologue is going to amplify that.
I'm a pretty positive person. I like to think. I choose to be positive. So I used to combat that with positive affirmation.
Yeah, because in this article, we thought this person has their fears where you're fat, your skin is disgusting, your eyes are different sizes, you look atrocious. So they have issues with their physical appearance. And so their inner monologue hammers them on physical appearance. And so whatever it is, that internal dialogue, whatever it finds, whatever weakness you think you have, it's going to use that to try to, and essentially you try to break yourself. Why does this happen? And I don't know, but
I call it my critical inner voice.
Yeah. Well, imagine if you sit there and you have someone outside telling you all these negative things about you all the time. But then, right, and you could think how of a drain it would be. But imagine if it's yourself telling you these things all the time. And it's very easy to believe yourself because it's yourself. And where do these things come from? I don't know. And the only way to deal with it is, it's like Lubby says, she tries to, counteract it. But
I have positive things built into my day. Morning cup of coffee. All right, we're awake. That's a good start. We play with the kitten. We accomplish something good for someone. Okay, we made it to noon. Sweet.
Yeah.
And when I accomplish something, when I finish something, all right, thank you, God. Another good day.
Yeah, and I guess the difficulty is getting through it because it never stops. And so instead of trying to figure out how to make it stop, how to not do it, you have to figure out how to make yourself stronger in the face of this.
Well, sometimes I do get exasperated and just say, shut up.
Well,
shut up.
Doesn't work, does it?
No.
But the trick is to ultimately get stronger against it, is to build yourself up, the inner strength where you're strong enough to face yourself and to face your own inner voice. And, that's not easy. No one said it was, but what's your choice? Do you want to be bombarded by your own negativity, or do you want to get stronger in the face of it and become the person you actually want to be? I can't answer those questions for you, but I can answer them for me. I still have that anxious 7-year-old child that I've always been. It still exists. It hasn't stopped. But I'm stronger in the face of it, and I try to get stronger all the time. And there's still struggles. Like, I still struggle. I still don't trust my eyes, even though I can now see. I still don't trust my eyes. And, but you know what? Crying about it isn't going to do me any good. I just have to figure out a way to get stronger in the face of that. Some days, I'll maybe not think about it so much. But I'm never going to get over that experience of living blind for that 6 months or 7 months, whatever it was. It's going to be with me. It's going to be part of me for the rest of my life.
Yes, it will.
But, it can make me better in some ways. Yeah. It can make me stronger. Anyway, for me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining us. You can find us at latenightLove.us. You can send love. You can send us a Dear Lubby letter at love@latenightLove.us. And please remember, you won't find us Thursday. You'll find us on Saturday nights, late probably, during the month of July.
With another dive into Reddit.
Oh, yes, and Lubby's going to be doing a lot of the research on these months of July ones. So you are probably going to see a lot of Lubby dives into Reddit. And so that should be fun, actually, to be honest. That should be a good time. And so for me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining us. And please remember to love everybody.
Good night.